Hello, everyone. My name is Paul McDonald. I'm an adult services librarian here at Carroll Stream Public Library, and today I'm going to talk about how to identify AI-generated content. Today's presentation will cover the following topics: what AI-generated content is and where it comes from, why recognizing AI-generated content is important, and how to detect AI-generated content yourself. By the end of this presentation, you will know the most common forms of AI-generated content, how AI-generated content is used to deceive people, and strategies for noticing when something is AI-generated. I will stress that all the information in this presentation is current as of June 3rd, 2024. The technology behind AI and AI-created content has advanced incredibly quickly over the past few years, which means that this presentation is more of a starting point than a comprehensive guide. So, what exactly is AI-generated content and how is it made? If you're imagining a computer program creating words, images, and sounds all on its own, you're a little off base. Generative AI is more about mixing and compiling existing content rather than crafting new content from scratch. A September 14th, 2023 article from technology news site ZDNet defines generative AI as follows, quote, generative AI refers to models or algorithms that create brand new output, such as text, photos, video, code, data, or 3D renderings, from the vast amounts of data they are trained on. The models generate new content by referring back to the data they have been trained on, making new predictions. End quote. AI tools rely on data to produce results, as they can only create new content by replicating aspects of existing content that are present in their training data. Of all the tools for creating AI-generated content, none are as famous or infamous as OpenAI's text generator ChatGPT, which studies a large quantity of web-based content to generate text in response to user prompts. This web-based content includes news articles from the BBC and the New York Times, websites such as Reddit and Wikipedia, and full-text editions of books considered historically relevant by OpenAI. This data set is only applicable to the free version of ChatGPT, however, which is based on GPT 3.5, a large language model, LLM, that processes, analyzes, and replicates human language. While information on the dataset used to train GPT 3.5 is openly available, OpenAI did not initially reveal any details of the dataset for GPT-4, the more advanced model used for paid versions of ChatGPT. OpenAI defended their lack of transparency in this area in their 2023 GPT-4 technical report, citing, quote, the competitive landscape and the safety implications of large-scale models like GPT-4, end quote. An April 6, 2024 article from the New York Times offered more insight into GPT-4's training data, stating that, quote, OpenAI eventually made Whisper, the speech recognition tool, to transcribe YouTube videos and podcasts. Last year, OpenAI released GPT-4, which drew on the more than 1 million hours of YouTube videos that Whisper had transcribed, end quote. If you would like to learn more about ChatGPT, a recording of a previous presentation I made on this AI model is currently available on the Carroll Stream Public Library YouTube page. OpenAI is also the creator of text-to-image generator DALL-E, which compiles and crafts images to respond to prompts in much the same way that ChatGPT does using written text. As a July 20th, 2022 article from NPR reported, quote, DALL-E does not rely on the internet for its raw data. Instead, its researchers have fed the system more than 650,000 images that the company has licensed, though company officials are tight-lipped about the details. DALL-E's algorithm is trained on the thousands of images it has ingested and text captions associated with the images, and it makes rapid-fire associations, end quote. The origins of the dataset for the text-to-image generator Midjourney are just as vague, When asked about the dataset in a September 16, 2022 interview with Forbes, Midjourney CEO David Holtz answered that, quote, "It's just a big scrape of the internet. We use the open data sets that are published and train across those. There isn't really a way to get 100 million images and know where they're coming from," end quote. By the way, the Midjourney generated picture on the left there won first prize in a digital art competition in 2022, marking one of the first times an AI-generated image received an award for artistic merit. This event sparked online controversy over whether this counted as cheating, even though the artist openly stated the image was made with Midjourney when submitting it to the contest. The text-to-image generator Stable Diffusion utilizes a dataset that includes over 2 billion images, which makes analysis of its content difficult. Blogger and technologist Andy Bio opted to investigate a small subsection of the Stable Diffusion dataset in an August 30th, 2022 post on his personal website, Waxy, with Bio carefully curating a selection of 12 million high-quality images and researching their origins. Bio's findings indicated that the social media and image sharing site Pinterest provided the greatest number of images to the dataset, with other common sources including user-submitted content platforms, as well as blogs, shopping, and stock image sites. Incidentally, you may have noticed that the caption for the image on the right describes it as a synthograph rather than a photograph. Synthography is a proposed term that academics and researchers have started using in the past few years, as a separate concept from photography, with the distinction being that photography refers to images based in reality, while synthography refers to images created by artificial means. Time will tell if this term catches on. Research company 11 Labs offers access to voice cloning, a tool that allows users to artificially generate audio of a human voice. This video from the 11 Labs YouTube page is a showcase of multiple AI-generated audio clips made using this tool.
Hey there. Did you know that AI voices can whisper? Or do pretty much anything?
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because this is one bizarre sight. We have reports of an enormous fluffy pink monster strutting its stuff through downtown.
Fluffy bird in downtown? Weird. Let's switch the setting to something more calming.
Imagine diving into a fast-paced video game, your heartbeat syncing with the storyline. I gotta go, the aliens are closing in.
That wasn't calming at all.
Explore all those voices yourself on the 11 Labs platform.
As the voice cloning page on the 11 Labs website explains, quote, "Voice cloning works by first capturing a person's voice through recordings, which serve as a learning material for the AI. The AI, once adequately trained, can then synthesize speech that closely resembles the original voice, enabling it to articulate phrases or sentences that were never recorded," end quote. Two versions of voice cloning exist: the free instant voice cloning tool and the paid professional voice cloning tool. The website differentiates the two versions as follows, quote, "Instant voice cloning is a quick and easy way to clone your voice. It works best with a sample of at least 1 minute of audio. Professional voice cloning is a more advanced process that requires a minimum of 30 minutes of audio. The result is a voice that is virtually indistinguishable from the real thing," end quote. Users can create high-quality AI-generated voice clips with professional voice cloning for as little as $5 per month and using as little as 30 minutes of audio. This means that anyone who has at least 30 minutes of their voice posted online as either audio or video is vulnerable to an 11 Labs user creating a professional quality imitation of their voice. ChatGPT and DALL-E creator OpenAI have also created Sora, a text-to-video generator that is not currently open to the public. This short video from the Wall Street Journal News YouTube channel displays multiple clips that were created solely from entering prompts into Sora. try on that chair. See the proportions change? Just to reiterate, everything you saw in that video was AI generated. Even the video from inside a moving train, which still fools me every time I see it. A February 15th, 2024 article from the New York Times expressed how OpenAI was just as secretive about the training data for Sora as it was for the training data for ChatGPT and DALL-E. The article states that, quote, OpenAI declined to say how many videos the system learned from or where they came from, except to say the training included both publicly available videos and videos that were licensed from copyright holders. The company says little about the data used to train its technologies, most likely because it wants to maintain an advantage over competitors, and has been sued multiple times for using copyrighted material, end quote. AI-generated images, text, audio, and video are simultaneously becoming easier to create and harder to detect, and public knowledge on this subject is struggling to keep up. We need to know about all the forms AI-generated content can take and how we're most likely to encounter them. Not recognizing AI-made content when we see it has serious consequences, as AI has already affected how we evaluate and react to information in our day-to-day lives, whether we realize it or not. An online report from news and information evaluation service NewsGuard, last updated on August 28, 2024, noted the increasing number of fraudulent news websites made using AI-generated text. Quote, to date, NewsGuard's team has identified 1,065 unreliable AI-generated news and information websites, labeled WANES, spanning 16 languages: Arabic, Chinese, Czech, Dutch, English, French, German, Indonesian, Italian, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Tagalog, Thai, and Turkish. These websites typically have generic names, such as iBusiness Day, Ireland Top News, and Daily Time Update, which to a consumer appear to be established news sites. This obscures that the sites operate with little to no human oversight and publish articles written largely or entirely by bots, rather than presenting traditionally created and edited journalism with human oversight, end quote. Just so you know, I had to revise this entry several times while working on this presentation, as NewsGuard updated this page on a regular basis, and the number of AI-generated news sites kept going up by hundreds of sites at a time. A May 16, 2023 article from Forbes elaborated further on the risks posed by these unreliable news sites, stating that, quote, many of the websites highlighted by NewsGuard obfuscate their ownership as well as the details of those who have editorial control. This can make it difficult to determine when agendas might be in play, as well as to establish accountability for defamation, disseminating dangerous information, or malicious falsehoods, end quote. AI-generated text can also limit the accuracy of Google results, as a February 20th, 2024 article from the Wall Street Journal discussed. Quote, AI-generated content doesn't necessarily violate Google spam rules. If an AI's content is good enough, it could surface in search. But what looks good enough to Google's search ranking systems might not be helpful to you, said search engine specialist Mark Williams-Cook. To both machines and users, the content reads well, he said, but can contain glaring mistakes that non-experts might miss, end quote. An August 8th, 2023 article from the New York Times highlighted another deceptive use of AI-generated text, creating second-rate travel guidebooks. Using a specific case as reference, the article explained that, quote, Ms. Kolsky had fallen victim to a new form of travel scam, shoddy guidebooks that appear to be compiled with the help of generative artificial intelligence, self-published and bolstered by sham reviews that have proliferated in recent months on Amazon. The books are the result of a swirling mix of modern tools, AI apps that can produce text and fake portraits, websites with a seemingly endless array of stock photos and graphics, self-publishing platforms like Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, with few guardrails against the use of AI, and the ability to solicit, purchase, and post phony online reviews. Amazon has an anti-manipulation policy for customer reviews, though a careful examination by the Times found that many of the 5-star reviews left on the shoddy guidebooks were either extremely general or nonsensical, end quote. Further complicating matters, a research study published in the journal Science Advances on June 28, 2023, demonstrated that people have trouble detecting AI-generated text even while specifically searching for it, noting that, quote, here we evaluate whether recruited individuals can distinguish disinformation from accurate information, structured in the form of tweets, and determine whether a tweet is organic or synthetic, i.e., whether it has been written by a Twitter user or the AI model GPT-3. The results of our pre-registered study, including 697 participants, show that GPT-3 is a double-edged sword. Our results indicate that not only can humans not differentiate between synthetic text and organic text, but also their confidence in their ability to do so also significantly decreases after attempting to recognize their different origins. This decrease in self-confidence after exposure to both synthetic and organic texts may be due to the realization that there is no clear marker that allows users to identify whether a text has been generated by a machine or a human, end quote. 3 separate instances occurred in 2023 where AI-generated images spread online and were mistaken for real photographs, 2 of them within the same week as each other. The first incident featured multiple Mid-Journey generated images depicting the arrest of Donald Trump, which a March 24, 2023 article from The Atlantic delved into in detail. Quote, British journalist Elliot Higgins decided to imagine the arrest of Donald Trump using the text-to-image generator Mid-Journey. His inputs, Donald Trump falling over while getting arrested, Fibonacci spiral, news footage. Higgins posted the AI's responses on Twitter, making the just a joke fakery clear. Soon they went viral. Some posts sharing the images acknowledged their AI origins. Others were notably less clear, end quote. The second incident featured a Mid-Journey generated image of Pope Francis in an enormous white puffer jacket. A March 28, 2023 Time article describing this event noted that, quote, over the weekend, an AI-generated image of Pope Francis wearing a Balenciaga puffer jacket went viral online, fooling many internet users. While the image of the Pope did contain some telltale signs of fakery, it was convincing enough to fool many internet users, including the celebrity Chrissy Teigen, end quote. The third incident featured an AI-generated image of a swelling cloud of black smoke near the Pentagon, which was supposedly the result of an explosion. A May 23, 2023 article from Barron's detailed how this AI hoax was effective enough to influence the US stock market before being debunked. Quote, according to the efficient market hypothesis, financial asset prices account for all available information. That was highlighted by the market's brief dip on Monday following the circulation of a photograph showing billowing smoke, purported to be from an explosion outside the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The photo wasn't real. It's the latest example of a viral image created by artificial intelligence. Despite quick work on the part of fact-checkers, the image still had time to do damage, including briefly causing the stock market to drop, end quote. A report from the nonprofit Center for Countering Digital Hate, published on March 6, 2024, outlined how tools for creating AI-generated images are still able to create election misinformation despite the safeguards added to these tools specifically to stop this from happening. As the report described, quote, researchers created a list of 40 text prompts on the theme of the 2024 United States presidential election, which were tested on 4 popular AI image generators: Midjourney, ChatGPT+, Dream Studio, and Microsoft's Image Creator, for a total of 160 test runs. They found that the tools generated images constituting election disinformation in 41% of these 160 test runs. Midjourney performed worst of any tool, failing in 65% of test runs, but researchers found that all of the tools are failing to sufficiently enforce existing policies against creating misleading content. Midjourney, Image Creator, and ChatGPT+ all have specific policies about election disinformation, and yet failed to prevent the creation of misleading images of voters and ballots. End quote. A research study published in the journal Advances in Computer Graphics on December 29, 2023, revealed that much like AI-generated text, AI-generated images are difficult to tell apart from real images even when people are specifically looking for them. As an article on the study from the University of Waterloo website explained, quote, a new study from the University of Waterloo researchers saw 260 participants provided with 20 unlabeled pictures, 10 of which were of real people obtained from Google searches, and the other 10 generated by Stable Diffusion or DALL-E, 2 commonly used AI programs that generated images. Only 61% of participants could tell the difference between AI-generated people and real ones, far below the 85% threshold that researchers expected, end quote. The article also indicated that, quote, participants paid attention to details such as fingers, teeth, and eyes as possible indicators when looking for AI-generated content, but their assessments weren't always correct. Lead author of the study, Andrea Pokel, noted that the nature of the study allowed participants to scrutinize photos at length, whereas most internet users look at images in passing, end quote. The fraudulent potential of AI-generated audio has also received mainstream attention in recent years, demonstrating the power of deploying artificially created audio over the phone. In January 2024, residents of New Hampshire were sent the following robocall, featured what sounded like a pre-recorded message from Joe Biden.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
This message turned out to be completely AI generated, as a January 26, 2024 article from Wired explained, quote, last week, some voters in New Hampshire received an AI-generated robocall impersonating President Joe Biden, telling them not to vote in the state's primary election. It's not clear who was responsible for the call, but 2 separate teams of audio experts tell Wired it was most likely created using technology from voice cloning startup 11 Labs, end quote. This incident prompted 11 Labs to change their submission policies to prevent further misuse of their voice cloning tool. However, even with these new restrictions in place, creating AI-generated audio of current politicians was still possible, as detailed in a May 4, 2024 article from The Atlantic. After the Biden robocall, 11 Labs introduced a no-go voices policy, preventing users from uploading or cloning the voices of certain celebrities and politicians. But this safeguard too had holes. In March, a reporter for 404 Media managed to bypass the system and clone both Donald Trump's and Joe Biden's voices simply by adding a minute of silence to the beginning of the upload file, end quote. Another report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, published on May 31, 2024, revealed that 11 Labs was not the only source of AI-generated audio with the potential to spread election misinformation. As the report detailed that, quote, we tested 6 of the most popular AI voice cloning tools: 11 Labs, Speechify, PlayHT, Descript, InVideo AI, and Veed, to assess their safety measures against the generation of election disinformation in politicians' voices. The tools generated convincing voice clones in 80% of cases when tested a combined 240 times on producing specified false statements in the voices of high-profile politicians. Examples of disinformation generated using the tools includes Donald Trump warning people not to vote because of a bomb threat, Emmanuel Macron saying he had misused campaign funds, and Biden claiming to have manipulated election results. One tool, InVideo AI, was not only found to produce specific statements in politicians' voices, but also auto-generated speeches filled with disinformation, end quote. The potential for a misuse of AI-generated audio extends beyond election interference, as demonstrated by a Vice article from February 23, 2023, which detailed how AI-generated audio can easily fool voice-based security systems. Vice reporter Joseph Cox outlined his discovery by relating how, quote, "On Wednesday, I phoned my bank's automated service line. Rather than speak out loud, I clicked a file on my nearby laptop to play a sound clip. Check my balance," my voice said. But this wasn't actually my voice. It was a synthetic clone I had made using readily available artificial intelligence technology, end quote. Cox went on to recount his experience with the security measures on the bank's automated line, noting that, quote, "The bank said, 'Please say my voice is my password.' Again, I played a sound file from my computer. 'My voice is my password,' the voice said. The bank security system spent a few seconds authenticating the voice. 'Thank you,' the bank said. 'I was in,' end quote. Cox then stated that, quote, "After that, I had access to the account information, including balances and a list of recent transactions and transfers. To create the voice, I recorded about 5 minutes of speech and uploaded it to 11 Labs," end quote. A March 12, 2023 article from the Washington Post covered how AI-generated audio has been incorporated into phone scams. Quote, "In 2022, imposter scams were the second most popular racket in America, with more than 36,000 reports of people being swindled by those pretending to be friends and family, according to data from the Federal Trade Commission. More than 5,100 of these incidents happened over the phone, accounting for over 11 million in losses," FTC officials said. Advancements in artificial intelligence have added a terrifying new layer, allowing malicious actors to replicate a voice with an audio sample of just a few sentences. Powered by AI, a slew of cheap online tools can translate an audio file into a replica of a voice, allowing a swindler to make it speak whatever they type, end quote. A May 2023 research report from computer security software company McAfee revealed how prepared individuals felt to recognize AI phone scams when they heard them, relating that, quote, "In April 2023, McAfee commissioned research with more than 7,000 adults worldwide to better understand the level of awareness and firsthand experience of AI voice scams. McAfee conducted research in the US, UK, France, Germany, India, Australia, and Japan," end quote. The report continued by stating, quote, "Research by McAfee has found that voice cloning tools are capable of replicating how a person speaks with up to 95% accuracy, so telling the difference between real and fake certainly isn't easy. In fact, 70% of people said they were either unsure if they would be able to tell, 35%, or believe they wouldn't be able to, 35%, end quote. A March 13, 2023 report from digital threat analysis company CloudSec described the spread of AI-generated videos which manipulate users into accessing links or files containing malware. As the reports explain, quote, "Since November 2022, there has been a 200 to 300% month-on-month increase in YouTube videos containing links to stealer malware such as Vidar, Redline, and Raccoon in their descriptions. The videos lure users by pretending to be tutorials on how to download cracked versions of software such as Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Autodesk 3ds Max, AutoCAD, and other products that are licensed products available only to paid users. There has recently been an increase in the use of AI-generated videos from platforms such as Synthesia and DID being used in the videos, end quote. The report expands on the term stealer malware by explaining that, quote, info stealers are malicious software designed to steal sensitive information from computers. They can steal passwords, credit card information, bank account numbers, and other confidential data, end quote. A February 11th, 2024 story from the New York Times demonstrated that politicians have already begun creating artificially generated footage of themselves to speak to the public. The article recounted that, quote, Imran Khan, Pakistan's former prime minister, has spent the duration of the country's electoral campaign in jail. But from behind bars, he has been rallying his supporters in recent months with speeches that use artificial intelligence to replicate his voice. And on Saturday, it was Mr. Khan's AI voice that declared victory, end quote. The article elaborated that, quote, the minute-long video used historical images and footage of Mr. Khan and bore a disclaimer about its AI origins, end quote. The article also touched on another use of AI-generated video from a political candidate, noting that, quote, during the 2020 state election in Delhi, India, Manoj Tiwari, a candidate from the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, created an AI deepfake of himself speaking the Haryanvi language to target voters in that demographic. Unlike the Khan video, it did not appear to be clearly labeled as AI, end quote. With this story and the Biden robocall mentioned earlier, we now have documented evidence of generative AI being used to create audio and video of political figures in hopes of influencing an election. While I was able to find studies testing how easily people can identify AI-generated text, images, and audio when researching this presentation, I couldn't find any studies that measured the ability to detect AI-generated video. This is most likely because AI-generated video is such a recent development that academic research simply hasn't caught up yet, as companies such as OpenAI, Google, and Meta only started developing and testing AI-generated video tools in 2022 and 2023. Once generative models such as OpenAI's Sora become more publicly accessible, I imagine research studies on this topic will be much more common. But they're not here yet, so we'll have to wait and see just how well people can distinguish between real video and artificially generated video. Multiple forms of AI-generated content can be used at the same time to attract web users looking for a specific topic, such as obituary information for the recently deceased. One instance of this approach was investigated in a February 1st, 2024 story from the New York Times. Quote, word of the 19-year-old's death spread quickly among the people who knew the young man, Matthew Satchman. Instead of answers, anybody searching for information was confronted by a blizzard of poorly written news articles, shady-looking YouTube videos, and inaccurate obituaries. In all, it took barely more than 24 hours for the search results of Mr. Satchman's name to be transformed into a minefield of ill-conceived, misleading content, end quote. The article also noted that what the Satchman family experienced is becoming increasingly common for the bereaved, according to scores of complaints published online and interviews with people who endured eerily similar ordeals. They were alarmed to see the fake obituaries posted before any official announcements or news stories. They were upset to read baseless speculation about possible causes of death in the AI-generated articles, and they were disheartened that seemingly nothing was being done about it, end quote. This flood of obituary-related misinformation can occur even when the individual in question is still alive, as reporter Deborah Vankin learned when her own death unexpectedly started trending. In a February 22, 2024 article for the Los Angeles Times, Vankin recounted that, quote, it turns out there were several reports of my death circulating online. At least half a dozen versions of my obituary were shared on dubious websites and on seemingly inauthentic social media accounts, according to NewsGuard. Per its analysis, there was a spike in Google searches for my name on January 5th, likely in response to a personal essay of mine The Times published the day before. Then my very first obituary went live on January 8th at 11 a.m. on the domain news.paying.com. It migrated from there, spawning multiple versions and YouTube videos. End quote. So, now that we know what AI-generated content is and what damage it can cause, how do we spot it? How can we tell if any text, images, audio, or video we encounter through a digital medium are real or artificially made? Unfortunately, there's no simple solution to this problem, as even tools and software that were specifically designed to recognize AI-generated material produce inconsistent and unreliable results. A March 29, 2024 article from MIT Technology Review analyzed a study from the ETH Zurich Research University in Switzerland, which demonstrated how easily digital watermarks for AI-generated text could be manipulated. The article stated that, quote, watermarks for AI-generated text are easy to remove and can be stolen and copied, rendering them useless, researchers have found. The researchers tampered with 5 different watermarks that work in this way, end quote. The article went on to explain that, quote, once they have an approximate idea of what the watermarked words might be, this allows the researchers to execute 2 kinds of attacks. The first one, called a spoofing attack, allows malicious actors to use the information they learned from stealing the watermark to produce text that can be passed off as being watermarked. The second attack allows hackers to scrub AI-generated text from its watermark, so its text can be passed off as human written, end quote. The article concluded by noting that, quote, the team had a roughly 80% success rate in spoofing watermarks, and an 85% success rate in stripping AI-generated text of its watermark, end quote. A 2023 study from the International Journal of Educational Integrity further highlighted the limitations of AI detecting tools, establishing that, quote, the focus of this investigation is determining the accuracy of tools which state that they are able to detect AI-generated text. The following 14 detection tools were tested: Check for AI, Compilatio, Content at Scale, Crossplag, Detect GPT, Go Winston, GPT-0, GPT-2 Output Detector Demo, OpenAI Text Classifier, Plagiarism Check, Turnitin, Rightful GPT Detector, Zero GPT, end quote. The results of the study found that, quote, detection tools for AI-generated text do fail. They are neither accurate nor reliable. All scored below 80% of accuracy and over 5 over 70%. In general, they have been found to diagnose human-written documents as AI-generated, false positives, and often diagnose AI-generated texts as human-written, false negatives. Overall, approximately 20% of AI-generated texts would likely be misattributed to humans. They are neither robust, since their performance worsens even more with the use of obfuscation techniques such as manual editing or machine paraphrasing, nor are they able to code with text translated from other languages. Overall, approximately 50% of AI-generated texts that undergo some obfuscation would likely be misattributed to humans, end quote. Only 5 out of 14 tools scored over 70% accuracy in recognizing AI-generated text, with none of the 14 tools scoring over 80%. The effectiveness of these tools further decreased when analyzing AI-generated text that had been edited or altered from their original state, and translated texts also gave these tools trouble. These findings limit the reliability of these tools while also revealing an easy way to bypass them, given that rewriting or changing an AI-generated text produces a notable drop in accuracy. 20% of unaltered AI-generated text would be mistaken for human-written by these tools, while 50% of altered AI-generated text would be mistaken as human-written. As a result of this, 14 tools for detecting AI-generated texts were proven both inconsistent and easy to fool, making them an unreliable source for recognizing artificially generated content. A similar result was found in a July 4th, 2023 article from the New York Times about tools for detecting AI-generated images. Quote, to assess the effectiveness of current AI detection technology, the New York Times tested 5 news services using more than 100 synthetic images and real photos. The results show that the services are advancing rapidly, but at times fall short, end quote. The article added that, quote, the wrong result from each service tested demonstrates one drawback with the current AI detectors. They tend to struggle with images that have been altered from their original output or are of low quality. Such shortfalls can undermine the potential for AI detectors to become a weapon against fake content. As images go viral online, they are often copied, resaved, shrunken, or cropped, obscuring the important signals that AI detectors rely on, end quote. If these tools cannot easily detect AI-generated images when the quality, perspective, or presentation of these images is changed, then only a few quick edits would be needed to make an AI-generated image that much harder to identify. An April 4th, 2024 story from NBC News showed how this same drawback inhibits the accuracy of tools for identifying AI-generated audio. Quote, while dozens of tools and products have popped up to try to detect AI-generated audio, those programs are inherently limited, experts told NBC News, and won't provide a surefire way for anyone to quickly and reliably determine whether audio they hear is from a real person, end quote. The article continued by relating that, quote, software is an inherently limited way to detect deepfakes, said Patrick Traynor, a University of Florida professor who specializes in computer science and telephone networks. Most detection programs are trained to identify existing deepfake algorithms, making them a step behind new innovations, he said, end quote. Again, AI detection tools have trouble with identifying AI-generated works that have been altered from their original form, whether through the addition of human-made text to AI-generated text, the editing of AI-generated images, or changes to the algorithmic code behind AI-generated audio. You may have already heard of an easy way to tell if an image is AI-generated. Check the hands to make sure they have the right number of fingers and are proportioned appropriately to the rest of the body. In fact, this image has become so common over the past few years that look at the hands was one of the first few AI detecting strategies I wrote down while initially developing this presentation. As my research continued, though, I was shocked and more than a little concerned to discover that this tactic is no longer as effective as it used to be. As a March 27, 2023 article from the Washington Post explained, quote, data sets that train AI often capture only pieces of hands. That often results in photos of bulbous hands with too many fingers or stretched out wrists, a telltale sign the AI-generated image is fake. But in mid-March, Midjourney, a popular image maker, released a software update that seemed to fix the problem, with artists reporting that the tool created images with flawless hands, end quote. As a visual demonstration of this, I've added 2 images from that same Washington Post article from comparison. Figure 1, here on the left, consists of 4 images of hands generated by Midjourney v4, while figure 2, here on the right, consists of 4 images of hands generated by Midjourney v5. The images in figure 1 have the typical flaws associated with AI-generated hands mentioned earlier. The thumb on the hand in the top left is too long, and the ring finger unnaturally overlaps with the pinky. Hands on the top right and the bottom left have more than 5 fingers, and the hand on the bottom right has an extended pinky that merges into the middle finger. In contrast, the images in figure 2 are much harder to immediately identify as AI-generated, particularly this hand on the top right, which uncannily resembles an actual black and white photo of a human hand. A 2024 research paper from Drexel University found that one of the most complex forms of AI-generated content AI-generated video is actually one of the easiest to detect. As an April 2024 story from Drexel News detailed, quote, for the test, the group trained 8 CNN convolutional neural network programs that classify images and objects detectors, including MISLNet, which including seek real videos and AI-generated videos produced by the 4 publicly available programs: Luma, Video Crafter V1, Cog Video, and Stable Diffusion Video. They then tested the programs against a set of videos that included a number created by generative AI programs that are not yet publicly available: Sora, Pika, and Video Crafter V2, end quote. The article outlined the results of the study by indicating that, quote, each program was more than 93% effective at seek the synthetic videos, with MISLNet performing the best at 98.3%. While the program struggled in facing with the challenge of detecting a completely new generator without previously being exposed to at least a small amount of video from it, with a small amount of fine-tuning, MISLNet could quickly learn to make the identification at 98% accuracy, end quote. The MISLNet tool was able to both correctly identify AI-generated videos and quickly adapt to new forms of AI-generated video it was previously unfamiliar with, making it a very effective resource for detecting AI-generated content, at least for the moment. A February 18, 2024 article from USA Today indicated that AI-generated video will also become more difficult to detect over time, remarking that, quote, for the moment, it's still possible to spot clues with the naked eye that those AI-generated videos are not real. Teeth and tongues are difficult to artificially recreate, University of Buffalo digital media forensics expert C.Y. Liu said. Sometimes a fake video is too perfect and leaves out pauses, breaths, or other imperfections of human speech. But the technology has come so far in such a short period of time that a fabricated video may be indistinguishable from an authentic one in as soon as a couple of years, University of San Diego Associate Professor of Marketing Colin Campbell said, end quote. So if we can't rely on AI detecting tools, with a few exceptions, and the flaws in AI-generated content are growing harder and harder to notice, what can we do? How do we accurately and consistently tell when we've encountered AI-generated content? There must be some kind of trick to it, right? It's not like we need to question everything we see and hear. I wish I was kidding. When I first started working on this presentation, I assumed the advice I would be giving you would be to show you how to spot obvious flaws in AI-generated content, saying things like, look at the hands, listen for unnatural stutters, notice if the textures are too smooth, and so on. However, seeing the capabilities of generative AI literally change around me as I was learning about them made me realize a different approach was needed. While I can tell you all about how AI-generated content looks and sounds right now, there are no guarantees that AI-generated content will consistently look and sound this way, which means that any detection tips based on current knowledge could quickly become out of date. Rather than risk it, I'm going to recommend a strategy that will always be effective regardless of how technology evolves. Focus on the context instead of the content. If you see or hear something and you're not sure whether it could be AI generated, try to keep these 5 questions in mind. Number 1, where did this content come from? Can you trace this content back to a specific source? And if so, does this content come from where it says it comes from? If you can't easily find out where this content originated from, or if its source doesn't match its description, the content creator might not be who they claim they are. Number 2, where else can this content be found? This question particularly applies to visual content, such as images and video. If there's only one specific image from a specific angle, or one video from a single source that depicts a certain event, the event in question might not have happened. Number 3, Are there any outside sources that can confirm this content is real? And are these sources trusted or verified? Do the news or information centers that you personally trust to provide you with accurate, detailed, and up-to-date facts support this content instead of contradicting it? If something newsworthy or impactful seems to have taken place, but none of the professional sources you trust have mentioned it in any way, then this event may be nothing but manipulative misinformation. Number 4, does this content seem realistic or reasonable? Does what you're seeing or hearing fit with what you know about the world? And does it make sense for the person or persons depicted in this content to do what they appear to be doing? If a known public figure seems to be saying or doing something that is unlike their usual behavior, this may be a sign that the content is falsifying information involving a recognizable individual in order to attract attention. Number 5, is this content trying to make you say or do something you wouldn't do otherwise? If a piece of written text, an image, an audio clip, or a video seems almost perfectly designed to make you feel happy, sad, upset, or afraid, consider whether this content is deliberately encouraging you to act in a certain way and what would happen if you did so. If this content is suspiciously timed to influence a decision, mood, or opinion on your part, then it's possible this content was deployed precisely to exploit your feelings and sway your future actions. I'm aware that having to ask yourself these questions every time you see or hear something that could potentially be AI generated sounds exhausting. I understand your concerns, but I believe this really is the best approach to counter this particular form of misinformation. Noticing when something was made using AI is just like any other kind of literacy. It will be difficult at first, but repetition and practice will make it easier over time. Considering how quickly AI technology is evolving, I think this is a vital skill for us to cultivate. So what have we learned from all this? How do we interact with AI-generated content going forward, and how do we stay prepared for what comes next? AI-generated content currently includes text, images, audio, and video, and it's hard to predict what might be coming next. Right now, though, disinformation and confusion are increasingly common as AI tools become both more realistic and more accessible. And it's important to remember the consequences of mistaking AI-generated content for the real thing. We can't use obvious surface flaws to tell if something is AI-made when those flaws can be easily corrected. And we can't rely on AI detection tools to do the work for us, considering their inaccuracy and unreliability. Until a consistently reliable method for detecting AI-generated content is introduced, we will have to rely on our media literacy and critical thinking skills to separate truth from fiction. We don't know where AI is going from here, and this is both a good and a bad thing. While it's entirely possible that this technology will only grow more invasive, deceptive, and threatening, it's equally possible that regulation, legislation, and restrictions are on the horizon for AI as well, which means that properly identifying AI-generated content could actually become easier over time. Whatever happens, I hope you leave here today feeling at least a little more informed about what AI-generated content is and how to spot it on your own. This is an unprecedented era of technological advancement, and we can work together to prevent malicious actors from taking advantage of it at our expense. Thank you.